about evidence of the last universal common ancestor. So, in this, we'll talk about how and what kind of evidences we have, which proves that yes, we all are coming from common ancestor. So, if you go into the past and if you try to understand during the evolution of life, there are many evidences suggest that different species have actually evolved from a common ancestor. That's a very common evidence we have got. Like what kind of evidences, what commonality you are finding. So you will find that species will share some characteristics with the common ancestor. Second, you will find, like if you will talk about some examples. So in case of example, we can say the bone structure of vertebrate forelimbs. This is a very common example. Example is bone structure of the vertebrate forelimbs. You will find that this is similar in all species of vertebrates, which show that they are inheriting these structural features from a common ancestor, right? So I can say in the bracket that it is similar similar in all species of vertebrates, right? Which indicates that they are or you can say they inherit this structure from a common ancestor. What else evidences we are getting? This is first evidence, right? So evidence is similar characteristics, some similar characteristics features. Second, DNA evidence, right? So DNA provide a useful tool, and how we can connect with the DNA. Now there are lots of base sequencing project going on throughout the world, right? So with the help of some online tool, like in bioinformatics, there are lots of sequence finding and sequence similarity sequence you can get it. So these tools helps to find the similar DNA sequences from closely related species. So I can say that DNA provide a useful tool to determine the evolutionary relationship uh, between species, like how, what kind of um, information you are going to get. First information you will get organism with similar DNA sequence. Similar DNA sequence are more closely related. This is the information. Even though, and those with very different DNA sequences, right? So then those with very different DNA sequence. And we know that life has originated around 4 billion year ago, right? So that is also giving a kind of evidence that so all life on earth is thought to have evolved from an ancient common ancestor, right? And it is believed they were existed about 4 billion years ago, believed to have existed about 4 billion years ago, BYE. And if you will see, the organism is known as LUCA, right? So this organism, which we are calling them ancestor, is known as LUCA. That means last universal uh, common ancestors. This is the full form. So L stands for universal, U stands for L stands for last, U stands for universal, C stands for common, E stands for ancestor. So this organism is known as LUCA, right? So in the phylogenetic tree in life, LUCA would be the organism at very base of the tree. Like if I have to show the tree, let me show you the tree. Actually, I have already shown, but let me show it to you again. So if I am going to, this is the tree. Okay. So what we are finding that this is the scenario. So LUCA is here. Here. And from these, all these things are coming out. So we categorize, this is this is also named as a phylogenetic tree of the life diagram. Phylogenetic tree of life diagram. Right? So, so we can call them this particular point. This is also named as a universal ancestor. Right? So all these life forms, the three category which we are seeing, eubacteria, archaeobacteria, and eukaryotes, we all are coming from a common ancestor. And these common ancestor has their genetic information or their genetics is matching with all these um, organisms. So this is a type of evolutionary tree of life indicating the evolution of life from the last universal common ancestor, which is this one, LUCA, and from there all the organisms are coming out. So evidence for common ancestry. What are the evidences? Let's talk about that. Evidence for a common ancestry. ancestry shared by all organisms, all living organisms. Includes. What is including? Let's talk about one by one. So first, same biochemistry. When we say biochemistry, the meaning is all kind of life processes, all kind of biological reactions which are going on. It's common. Same biochemistry in all organisms. Next, similarity, same base sequence, same DNA, bases, and genetic code. Fine. Next, if DNA is same, that means protein will be also same. Same shared amino acid. From protein molecule in organism. So these are the evidence which shows that yes, there is some commonality, there is some similarity which is matching with the past ancestors. So later on, researchers found several genes that are shared by eubacteria and archaebacteria, indicates that these genes were inherited from LUCA. This is also a kind of evidence. So in that contrary, we can say that it is possible that other organisms may evolve at the same time, but maybe later on they get extinct because of the competition of the sources, or maybe gone on a shape that a tree life. I mean, maybe the descendant of this universal ancestor would have outcompeted other species. That is also possible. So we can say researcher found several genes that are shared by eubacteria and archaebacteria. And what it indicates? Indicating that gene inherited from universal ancestor, that is LUCA. If this is possible, then it is also possible that other organisms may have evolved at the same time, right? Some they got extinct, some are struggle in the situation, so now still we are getting it, still they are on earth. So it is possible that other organisms may have evolved at same time as LUCA, right? But maybe others have faced a different environmental condition, but let's say become extinct. Why? Due to competition for shared resources. Right? That is the reason. So researchers are also concluded many outcomes that yes, it proves that yes, we all are coming from common ancestor. Let's talk about time scale, right? Let's estimating the time scale for the origin of life, right? So let's try to find out what are the evidences we are getting and how we can estimate the timeline. So there are so many ways. First is the fossils, right? First, let's talk about fossils. Fossils provide evidence about the history of life on Earth and are often used to determine the time scale, right? Like when these organisms were present, how old the rock is, right? So based on that, so we can say that fossils can provide evidence, evidence about the history of life on Earth, right? And are often used to determine the time scale, right? Time scale across which evolutionary event has occurred, right? Events has. Now, when you know these timescales can be established using some kind of techniques to the fossils or date of the fossils or the rock in which they are found. There are so many methods like carbon dating, radiometric dating. So these methods gives the age of the rock. So these time scale can be establishing or we can say established using techniques to date the fossils, or you can also find the age of the rocks, right? In which they are found. So what are the methods we have to find the age and all? First method is carbon dating. Second method is radiometric dating. In carbon dating, what happens? Carbon dating of a ice carbon dating of the isotopes carbon 14 for sample of approx 60,000 year old, right? So you can say carbon dating, CD stands for carbon dating. Carbon dating of the isotope, if you want to see the carbon isotope carbon 14 for sample. Body is made up of carbon, right? So you can take the carbon from that, and carbon 14 samples, it shows up to approx 60,000 years old. So there's a good chance of getting a remarkable information. When we talk about radiometric dating, what they do, it measures the relative proportion of certain radioactive element or radioactive anything substances also, such as uh, carbon 13 to carbon 12, right? Active substances in a sample. So with the help of these two methods, we can find the age. What else? How we can calculate the time period or time by seeing the older rocks, right? Older rocks. Older rocks can also give you a kind of time duration, like okay, this rocks looks old, so maybe it is 60 years old or 100 year 200 years. So by the time you can also predict, if I'm saying 100 years, that means organism was there on that, right? So their impression shows that when this rock is there, that means that organism will also be there. So older rocks would be expected to contain evidence evidence of more ancient forms of life, right? So accurately dating these would indicate when life may have originated, right? So I can say, so accurately dating these would predict when life may have originated. Now, this is not only way, there are others way. Another technique is analyzing the genome analysis. How genome analysis? There are so many things happen in a genome, right? Like DNA changes as mutation or accumulation of the mutation over time, right? So DNA changes as mutation occurs and accumulated or accumulate over time, right? Next, what else? What are the other way of, by estimating the average life or average time of DNA mutation occur, like when it happened. Not an exact value, but average value will give you an idea. So by estimating the average time for DNA mutation to occurs, and the relative date when species branched from a common can be determined based on number of mutations has been occurred, right? So you can say uh, that the relative date when species branched from a common ancestor can be determined based on number of mutation that have affected me. And if you are able to find out the estimated year of mutation. This would also apply to change in the amino acid, right? Because DNA has changed, that means amino acid will also change. So that evidence will also give a strength to the DNA analysis, right? So we can say that this would also apply to changes in the amino acid composition, composition of proteins, right? Because we are already talking about mutation. DNA has changed. When DNA has changed, that means change in amino acid is also possible because both are connected. So, on assumption that these changes occur at a constant rate, this forms a basis of molecular clock. So, let's say these things are happening in, let's say, in every 100 years. So, it will provide evidence and we can put a concept of molecular clock. So, we can say on the assumption that these changes occurs at a constant rate, this forms the basis of a molecular clock. With this, you can also predict. So, the molecular clock used to determine the date of when life on Earth originated. Right? So, you can say here that molecular clock MC can be used to determine the date of when life on Earth originated. Right? So there are lots of evidences, there are lots of uh, uh, support evidences which are indicating that how the life has come, what are this estimated evidences we have. We are not relying on the physical form of evidence, we are also checking the biological form in the form of fossils. So let's talk about how universal uh, ancestor has evolved. So let's talk about evidence. Evidence for the evolution of LUCA near hydrothermal vents. Let's talk about that. So it is possible that LUCA evolved in hydrothermal dent deep inside the ocean. Let me show you how this hydrothermal look like.